Well, I am here with Annie F. Downs. Annie, how are you today?
Oh, I'm so happy to see you, Rodney. I love our friends at Canopy so much. This is like my favorite thing.
Yeah, we've known each other quite a while back in the University of Georgia days. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But we're still in touch, which I love.
Me too. I'm really thankful. Man, it is just wild to think back on how many people we knew 20 years ago that are still like actively in our lives because of Georgia, because of Wesley. And yeah, I'm very grateful for it, buddy.
Well, Georgia, in many ways, is still the best college in the world. And it's built community for us. Our football team's going to get there.
And that's what they've been telling us since 1980. I really hope you're right.
That's right. Annie, people tell you this all the time, but you're genuinely one of the best people I know. And what I hear all the time, and I'm sure you hear this, right? That everybody just feels like they want to be your best friend. Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah.
That everybody just like, I think if we got together, we would be best friends.
100%.
Do you like that? Do you get tired of that?
Oh, I never get tired of that. That is exactly why I do what I do. So I never get tired of it, Rodney. I absolutely love it because what it means is that they feel like the person they're experiencing in Annie F. Downs on Instagram or in the books or on a stage, they feel like that's who I really am. And I work really hard to be genuine and to be vulnerable and to be authentic in all the ways people experience me, whether we end up at the same restaurant or whether they follow me on Instagram. And so when people say that, I don't think they actually know what that would entail to have to actually be my friend.
Right.
So I
It's
don't
a lot.
think, So I don't know that people really want what they think they want, but I think it's really kind and it says that I'm doing the thing I'm made to do.
Yeah. Does it ever creep you out?
No, I don't think it ever creeps me out. I think on my worst days, it feels like I can't ever be invisible. But that's okay. We don't need to be invisible. We don't need to have secret lives. And so on my worst days, I think I can't make a decision and not think about how many people are going to care about this decision.
Yeah. I mean, you're public all the time now.
Yeah.
You just can't, it's hard to take a day off.
Yeah, because even if I take a day off and go to the grocery store, there's a chance. Now, I'm not Justin Bieber. I'm not Taylor Swift. I can go wherever I want to go. I just also have to be aware that, especially because I teach on Sundays here in Nashville, I'm on a teaching team at our church with our mutual friend, Kevin Queen. So I'm up on stage in front of a big church once a quarter or twice a quarter.
Yeah.
And so that's a factor here too, right? It's not just people who read my books. It's that I am a teaching voice in our city. And so I just have to be aware of that. It doesn't change what I do. It doesn't change what I eat or drink necessarily or where I go, but it just is a reminder. And some days I don't want the reminder. Some days I want to be invisible.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about this past year, which has been a lot.
Are we all okay? Are we all okay?
No.
We're not.
We are not. We're not okay. And we'll probably figure out for the next few years that, I thought I was okay and I'm not.
You're right.
This is going to take a minute for us to unwind from this year. Internally, culturally, this has changed things in ways we still don't know. So no, we're not okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about this year, kind of what you've experienced. And I want to talk about your new book. That sounds fun because this is phenomenal. And
thank you.
New York Times, is that correct?
New York Times bestseller. Yeah, who can believe it? I know.
What?
I know.
No, is that really a surprise? Honestly. Did you hope? I mean, you always have a hope.
It is the number one dream I've had in my career since I've been doing this. So but the last two books, I just posted about this on Instagram. The last two books, I bought a bottle of champagne in Napa in 2015 to open when I hit New York Times. And the last two books that came out, Looking for Love and Remember God, I put it in the fridge thinking we'll do it. And then we didn't either time. And it was so disappointing. And I am shocked about this, but I honestly forgot about it with this book. But of course, we set goals, we had hopes, we really wanted that because the thing is, Rodney, when a book hits that list, it gets in front of a bunch of people who don't believe everything I believe. And that is my goal, is to make friends with people who don't believe what I believe in hopes that they will experience God in a way that impacts their lives. And so that's my number one reason I love that stuff. It's not me that hit the New York Times bestseller. I've written a lot of books. It's this book that hit the list. And that's what I want. I want this book to go far and wide into people's lives who wouldn't maybe call us friends before.
Well, what you wrote about, it was so accessible to anybody. So there's so many people in our community in Canopy that all of our people's beliefs are all over the map. Whether you're Christian, non-Christian, humanist, not whatever. We've got beliefs all over the place, but I think the way you wrote this, there's an on-ramp for every person and application for every person to make their lives significantly better and more meaningful. So it's no surprise to me after reading it that it hit the New York Times bestseller. So way to go.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Like what's been the most surprising thing this time around, right? Like you said, this is your third book. It's like, has anything been like uniquely different about this? One of the things you wrote about in your book is, and maybe we can get there later, you talked about how the reason we're not good at grief is because every grief is new. Yeah. And so it's like we're having to redo this. But this is new too. Like every new thing like this is new. So what surprised you about this? What's new this time around, if anything?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is the team I have around me, which is just so like, of course. Like, of course, that the better your team, the better your work. And so I just am surrounded here at the office. There are a lot of people, 8, 9 of us, who are all working on the same goal. And so that are multiple goals. And that's really fun. And it makes every day more fun. Every day is better because I have a big team around me that loves what we do and really believes in what we do. So that's probably the biggest difference, is having a team with me day in and day out, helping accomplish all the goals we set. And I've never experienced that before. I've been doing this job it's been my full-time job since 2012, so 9 years. And I've never experienced anything like the team that we have now.
LeBron James was right. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's it. If I was up for getting another tattoo, that'd be one of the options. It is really important to me. I didn't know how much it mattered, and it really matters.
I think you should get a LeBron James tattoo.
Okay.
I think it would be awesome. That's right.
When he posts about my book, I will get a LeBron James tattoo. That is a promise. If we get him to share about my book, then I will absolutely get some sort of LeBron James tattoo. No question. That's easy.
Everybody listening to this now, we're got to be blowing up LeBron James because she made a promise to the whole world. I want that tattoo.
That's true. That's right.
So, all right, we mentioned it a little bit. I have found it hard to talk about this past year. I think everybody has found it hard to find the right language. I heard someone say recently that the reason where it's difficult to find language is because human beings we have language for where we are, and we have language sometimes for where we want to go. But when we find ourselves in that middle space, it's really hard to kind of define it, right? It's this middle kind of journey, and it's hard to figure out the language, and it's also hard to talk about it because for some people, there's been really positive things. It's been a really good year in so many ways. And then other people, it's been the most heartbreaking, devastating year of loss.
And for most people, it's both, right? For most people, there is loss and there's joy, and we don't know what to do with either of them.
Yeah. So what's been specifically difficult for you?
Oh, man. What has been most difficult for me was being alone as much as I was alone the last year, because I don't live with anybody right now. And so being just in my house for months was more than I thought I could handle. I'd have told you, if you just said to me in 2019, hey, Annie, do you think you could be in your house from like March 8th to May? I'd have been like, no, in no world can I do that. And yet that's what we did. That's what all of us did. And so many people are still working from home and still not going all the places that they want to go. And nothing is back to normal. We still don't have concerts. We still aren't in arenas, big arenas for events. And so to me, that was the hardest thing for me was learning how to be by myself that much. I had built a life where being single did not mean being alone. And then suddenly the world said, well, being single is gonna mean being alone. And that was really
These things
hard.
are now becoming synonymous in your life.
Yes. And that was really challenging for me.
Was it, not to like, this is not therapy, but like just genuinely asking, was it the lack of community that was so hard, like just not seeing people, or is it like being alone with yourself? You know, and sometimes those aren't necessarily the same thing.
Right. I think there were some of both. I think there were days, especially at the start. You know, you and I have talked about this before, and I've talked to our Canopy friends about this before, but I'm pretty serious about rest, about Sabbath, about having a day every week that I don't work. And so I've learned I've been practicing pretty much weekly Sabbath since 2015 or 16. And so I had learned how to be with myself. Like that is one of the gifts that had come from practicing that part, having that spiritual discipline in my life. I was not ready to do that for 3 weeks on end or 5 weeks on end or whatever. In fact, you and I talked about this when it happened, but I got quarantined really early because a friend of mine was one of the first people in our county to have COVID last year. And so I was quarantined before the world shut down. I had 10 days by myself when my friends like came and sat outside my porch, and I sat on my porch and we would talk because I really could not leave the house. So said the health department. And so those were the worst days of being with myself. After that, Rodney, the thing that actually got really hard for me was the lack of new people I met, the lack of being around strangers. There's something that is hopeful about being around people you don't know, about maybe meeting someone at a restaurant you haven't met before, maybe seeing someone get engaged or seeing someone celebrate at another table, or you're all singing the same song at a Mumford concert, right? Like, I missed strangers. I got to see, there was a small community of us, really small, like 3 friends on one side and then 1 family on the other side. So I wasn't alone. It just got, and for all of us, we talked about it. It just got to be where it got to be summer and you were like, I haven't seen someone I don't know besides at the grocery store in months. And for those of us who aren't married yet, we kind of depend on meeting people we don't know to advance our lives.
You need opportunities.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. And for those of us who are pretty active about trying to get opportunities and are out and about, all those were gone, Rodney. I mean, and to some degree, they still are. I mean, like, I still don't meet a lot of strangers. We don't go to parties. I mean, the last person I was dating, we both showed up at the same party, and because we had a mutual friend. Well, that just doesn't happen right now where no one's throwing parties still where I live. And it's not warm enough to be outside yet. And people aren't bringing their friends to events because no one knows how people feel about whether they've been exposed or who they've been around. And are we going to have to wear masks? And so that has been the hardest thing for me, is a lack of strangers. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's been really hard.
You're the first person I've heard say that. Like, you're having the same conversations I am, and the same conversations probably everybody has. Like, what have you lost? You know, oh my gosh, there's a long laundry list of things that I feel like I lost this year, right? I mean, whether that's trips out of the country, being able to celebrate your kid's birthday, trips with friends. I mean, there's a million big things and a million small things. You're the first person I've said, I've missed or I've lost the ability to connect or see or be around strangers. But it really is one of those things in life where those are where you find all of those unique, spontaneous moments that kind of make your day or make your week significant or special or out of the routine, out of the ordinary. You know, it's that random conversation. It's the concerts, it's all those things. That's an interesting, when did you land on that? Or
probably,
I miss strangers.
It was probably the fall. It was early in the fall when we all were, I remember my girlfriends and I were sitting around and we were like, we love each other a lot. Why do we feel like down.
Why are we still sad?
Yeah, why are we still sad? We aren't by ourselves. Why are we still sad? Yeah. And we can go, as a group of friends, we can go months where only one of us is dating somebody or nobody's dating somebody. So it wasn't like, we aren't sad that we don't have a boyfriend today. We're not sad that we aren't because we aren't alone. There's just something else. And for me, Rodney, I think one of the things, and I talk about it, and that sounds fun. One of the things that about fun is it doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be trips, and it doesn't have to be expensive. And so I have really practiced taking these big fun things and putting in my everyday life. Well, the best way for me to have fun in my everyday life is going to involve being around strangers, whether it's a full restaurant or a park full of people or getting to people watch or flying on an airplane to somewhere cool. And you just think, man, all those opportunities to be around humans that I have never met were gone. And so it just kind of felt repetitive for a long time. Our lives felt repetitive. The food we ate was repetitive. The conversations we had were repetitive. The things on the calendar getting canceled was repetitive. And who we were around was repetitive. For me, for almost 8 or 9 months, from March to probably, I don't know, Christmas? Before I started. I didn't fly anywhere before that, I don't think. I may have, and I'm not remembering. But, I mean, now I'm flying a little bit. I've done 2 flights this year. And so then, but
Me too.
And when I'm on an airplane, I'm like, I don't know any of these people. Oh my gosh, I don't know any of these people. Who are all these people? Where are they all going? You know?
But you can't smile at them because you've got a mask. It's like, it's crazy.
I will.
I miss that.
I will be fine when we stop wearing masks. I will be fine when we stop wearing masks in public. I miss seeing people's faces. I recognize that it is one step we can take that is healthy or makes people feel like it's healthy. And so I'm happy to abide, but I will be glad when we see each other's faces again.
Well, you touched on, you write on this, and we touched on this conversation about dating, the opportunity to meet people. You write with a really good balance, Annie, of being vulnerable, but without being just, I've bared everything. Like, you let people
without
in.
Dragging
and it
anybody.
Gives that kind of thing. It's a gift, and I know you work hard at that. But you talked about dating and being alone and single. Like, so where are you today? Like, how does Annie F. Downs feel about singleness as of today and not having opportunities to date people? Is this a good day, bad day? Is this a good week?
Today is a good day. And I think that's the right way to ask that question. You are a professional at being around us. That's the right way to ask that question is, how do you feel today? And I'll tell you, one of the big things I took out of 2020, Rodney, is what can I control? What can I control? I can't control when we get to see people or when we get to meet someone. And we probably didn't have as much control as I thought I did before 2020. But 2020 really said, you don't have very much control. What do you have control over? So what do I have control over? I have control over my body. I have control over my finances. I have control over my work. I don't have control over relationships. So I have control over making myself available when I can and when an opportunity is in front of me. And so today, I feel like I'm controlling what I can control in a healthy way. I mean, when it comes to dating, it is, I just don't know what we do. For a lot of people, online dating is back to being available and healthy and a good way to meet people. That doesn't fit as much for my life because of my job.
Yeah.
And I have had 2 pretty weird experiences with online dating stuff since my job has been my job. And so it just isn't very user-friendly for me right now. And but I know a lot of my friends are having success meeting people and going, Zooming on first dates and, doing all that. So people are meeting people again like they weren't last spring and summer, it felt like, in my circle at least.
Right.
I don't know what to do. And so I just control what I can control.
Well, like you said, the pools of opportunities have shrunk down so much. And you're right. It's like, well, there's online dating and, I think that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I
That's
think
it.
that we just exhausted the list
Yeah.
of places to go.
Yeah. And I'm thankful
And
for it
it's,
because I want people, I mean, yes, use
Me
that
too.
resource. Get on there and make friends because, especially the ones like Hinge, where you go, there is someone who knows both of us. This is not me just meeting up with a stranger who happens to live in my zip code. There is some, though those are fine too, but I like the ones where there's some sort of connection.
It helps.
It helps. And I think it's good. I think it's fine. I tell people all the time, if you feel lonely, there's resources out there. Now, our friend Jonathan Pekluda, he talks a lot about dating and he says you pick your problems. And that's true. You pick a problem when you pick online dating that you may not have if it's someone that your brother introduces you to. But right now, with the resources and the opportunities we have, it's a really good resource.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's profits and deficits to every arena that you are going to step in. And if you think this is going to solve all of it, it's not. I mean, we all know somebody who met online, went out 2 weeks later, they got married 2 weeks later, and they've been married for 10 years and so happy.
That's right.
And then there is just train wrecks of stories. And you just got to keep at it. And you're a big advocate of just like keep putting yourself out there. You know, you talk about you love to fall in love and you fall in love constantly and you're trying to figure out how early do I say something? How hard do I fall? That kind of stuff. But you're like, keep going, keep saying yes.
Yes, because the thing is, if you want to be in a relationship and if you want to get married, you're going to have to try. Like, it may have been you, Ronnie, but one of my friends said to me a couple of years ago, if you don't try, if you want to get married and don't do anything, you're depending on the pizza guy or the mailman to be who you marry because they're the only ones who come to your house. Right? Like, other than that, if you're not doing anything and getting out there. And so I am a huge believer. And if you want friends, there are ways to say yes that get you friends. Small groups at Canopy, getting connected, going to events when they're hosted outside, going to Braves games, going to, there are ways to make friends. There are ways to meet people of the opposite sex that you want to date. There are ways to do all the things you want to do. You just have to say yes more than you want to say yes usually. And, me too. Me too. I have to do things and go places that I think I would just rather stay in this loungewear on my couch, even though we've been home for a year. That is a weird result of this is everybody's gotten real comfortable not leaving home. And okay, fine. But if you have to decide what you want more. And do you want relationship more or do you want comfort more? Because some nights you only get to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Annie, in your book, this is just to switch gears without a clutch.
I like it.
You talk about being an amateur and how important that is and how the world needs, more amateurs. When I was reading about that, it reminded me of one of my, a favorite author of mine who, he described himself as an amateur cook, but he takes amateur and makes it synonymous with lovers, right? Because it's just like, if you got to just be a lover of something. It doesn't necessarily mean you're have to be you're just a non-professional.
Right.
You're just someone who loves something. So, and the world needs more people who love something. But why is it better for the world that we have more amateurs?
Well, I actually think this isn't much of a shift as you implied that it was without a clutch over here, because the reality is to do relationship well, you're going to have to start new relationships and you've never done this one before. And so you have to go into it and go, I have some wisdom because I'm a person and I'm not in third grade anymore. I have some experiences, whether it's having friends or being in relationships before. You have some things to bring to this, but you've never dated this person. You've actually never been in this friend group before. So this is all brand new. And you need to remind yourself that it is okay when this feels new. And when you are an amateur at something, you are never going to be a professional at anything except your job. You should be a professional at your job. But every relationship you're in, you're not going to be a professional at because you've never done today with that person. Whether it's friends or family or dating or marriage, today is brand new. And if you tell yourself you're only allowed to be a pro at everything, then you are going to miss out on trying new things and doing things that you haven't done before and having conversations you haven't had before. And it honestly makes me, I think this is true for a lot of my friends, it makes us braver to be to be amateurs because you go like, hey, I need to be a part of this racial reconciliation conversation, but I don't know everything. And if you wait until you feel comfortable that you know everything, you are going to actually miss out on being a part of the solution and being in the conversation.
Yeah.
And the same is true in faith questions and conversations. You think you have to know everything before you can start talking about what you're believing. And instead, like, start talking about it. Like, get out there and start doing it. And you're right. It's so, we have made the word amateur. We make jokes all the time like, oh, I got off at the wrong parking deck, amateur hour. Like, I should have remembered I was level 2 and I got off at level 3. And we've taken that word and given it such a negative connotation. And the truth is what you said, that being an amateur means I do this thing because I love it and I don't have to be the best at it. I can just try. And if you really believe you'll still be loved, even if you make a mistake, if you really believe that you will be chosen and in a safe relationship, even if you make a mistake, you are so much more willing to be an amateur and to not be a professional at everything. I think, Rodney, I really think when I think back on college in my first years out of my 20s, of college in my 20s, I think one of the things I did wrong in dating is I thought I had to know how to do it really well before it ever started. Instead of going like, this is brand new, let's both be brand new. And so a lot of times I was rushing conversations or rushing experience or getting frustrated because I thought we were supposed to be good at this instead of being new at this. And so I think it's one of the ways I've actually really improved in relationship is there's more space for mystery. There's more space for exploration as far as getting to know someone and figuring out what does this relationship need from me. And so I think being an amateur helps you have hobbies, helps you be in healthy relationships, and helps you have time that isn't just working time, where all of us can probably work all the time. If you'll let yourself be an amateur at something and set aside some time for hobbies, you will have a better life balance pretty quick.
I hate feeling insecure, like starting something. I hate that. Like, I don't want to feel like I felt in middle school where, you're just looking around all the time. You're just going, do I have this? Do I have this figured out? What do I look like? And starting new things and being an amateur, not good at something, it takes me back to feeling like I was in middle school. Plus, amateurism, is that a word?
It is now.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
It is now. It is. It's not celebrated, right? Professionals are celebrated.
Right.
And so I think with fear and being insecure or looking dumb, plus our culture doesn't celebrate it, it's hard to step into it. I mean, how do you get past that? I mean, what's your advice to people? Because you said that this is something that's really connected with people, this idea of being an amateur. Like, how do you step through? Those are two big barriers. Yeah,
the book has been out since the beginning of February, and it is the number one thing people talk to me about. I thought they would tell me about their hobbies, and they do, which is so fun, Rodney. I mean, I get tagged all the time in people like cooking or playing a sport outside or cross-stitching or whatever they've picked up. I love it. But the thing they talk to me the most about is I needed someone to tell me I didn't have to be good at everything. Because particularly in America, particularly in our culture, there is we will celebrate the best of us. And we already talked about it, right? New York Times, people celebrated the best of that release that week. And I loved it. But also the way you get over that fear, honestly, Rodney, is you go first. Because the thing people love is when they feel like, oh man, I can be me right here. I can be me with these people because I know they aren't perfect and I know whatever. So if you will go first, John Acuff says it's permission. It's the gift of going second to someone else. The gift of going second. If you will go first and give someone else the gift of going second, you will not be alone. You may be alone if you wait for someone else to go first. Maybe not. But if you will be the one who gives the gift of going second, then you won't be alone. And the reason we're insecure and the reason we're afraid is because we think if I'm not good at this, everyone will leave. And the reality is if you go first and you have about 8 minutes of awkward of being the one who's maybe a little vulnerable, maybe starting a conversation that's hard, maybe inviting people to do something and they may say no. Okay, you'll be all right. You've lived through every rejection because we're here. Like, you've been rejected a lot. I've been rejected a lot. Everyone watching has been rejected a lot, and we have survived them all. You will survive the next one too. But if you will go first and be an amateur in conversation and behavior and what you're doing in the kitchen, the recipe may not turn out all right, but people are going to get fed and they're going to appreciate that you tried, and you'll try again. Like, you're going to be fine. That's the end. The end is you're going to be fine. You may have your heart broken, you may be disappointed, but you're going to be fine. You've survived harder things before.
Yeah. And you're cooking now.
Right?
Look at that.
Aren't we all? Weren't we all stuck in our houses for a year and we're like, well, I've got a kitchen I've never used. I'm out. Like, you just get so tired of the other rooms. You're like, I could come into this one and make things that I eat. And so that's what ended up happening is I thought, I need to, I think that's one of the things Matt Chandler says, if you work with your mind, Sabbath with your hands. And if you and if you work with your hands, Sabbath with your mind. And so for me, one of the ways I needed to rest is I needed to start making things, because my whole job involves me talking and typing. And I needed to start making some stuff. And so when you're in the kitchen and you can make something, it is so restful for me to like put on a podcast or put on a sermon or put on a sports game. Why does that make me sound the worst?
A sports game, an amateurish sports game.
I love sports. What is wrong with me? Put on an athletic game, put on a Braves game and make some recipe you've always wanted to try. Men and women are telling me that mattered to them in the last year. They're like, just making something when the world feels out of control, what can you make? And you can make cookies, or you can make banana bread, or you can make a steak, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's one of the things that gives me life, and I'm a wild amateur cook, but I've been married almost 15 years next week.
Yeah.
And my wife has cooked, that's right, but she's cooked one dinner in 15 years. I do every meal.
You're lying.
Every one. And
what's your best thing?
No,
like,
meal.
what's your star recipe? What's the thing that the kids get stoked about, Sarah gets stoked about? What's the meal?
Oh, okay, there's two.
Oh, good.
So one's a breakfast deal and then one's a dinner deal. And it changes over the years, right? But here's the recent go-to. The breakfast is a coconut macadamia nut French toast that I make.
That's no
delicious.
Joke.
Yeah, and then the other one, my kids are like, their birthdays, what are they gonna ask for is a sous vide rack of lamb. That's their...
You are raising the bougiest children.
It's amazing what they eat. They eat everything.
Rack
but
of
I've also
lamb.
I've never fixed anything else for them, even since they were kids. It's like whatever I eat, they've eaten since they could eat.
Brilliant.
So I don't make chicken nuggets. I don't make a separate meal. I don't do mac and cheese. I'm like, if you want to eat,
this is it.
This is what you're getting.
That's right.
But it's good too. It is delicious.
I believe it.
I can make broccoli that they'll eat.
How?
So
in the oven?
All right, we go ahead.
Is your broccoli in the oven?
Broccoli? Oh, you got to roast it.
Yeah,
If you want your kids to eat it.
Yeah. If you want me to eat it, you got to roast it.
You can't steam that. They're gonna gag that stuff down.
We have to stop. I need us to take a hard stand against steamed broccoli because it is not right.
It's not good. Normally, if you put enough salt and butter on something, it gets better. No. It's awful no matter what.
It gets squishier, and I don't want that anymore.
No. We just made a decision. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, I know I got to be cognizant of your time, so I just ask you one more question. So I'll preface it with this. I read an article, I think it was a CNN article, not too long into the pandemic, and I'll always remember this because the article was about a town in India, and the town was about 50 miles from the Himalayas. And I may get some of these details wrong, but most of this is correct. Anyway, once the pandemic hit and they stopped going to work and they stopped driving their cars, the smog level in their city changed. And so in the first time in 50 years, people could see the Himalayas. They could see the mountains from their city. And so kids had grown up, people had grown up in this city and could never see the peaks. And I just remember that being such an incredible picture of, oh my gosh, there's been some things that have been hidden from us our whole life, and now we can see them, right? We can see this beautiful thing that's sitting in front of us. So what do you think you will take with you from this that you want to make sure is not clouded back over when all the activity starts back up? Like, what have you seen in your life that you go, I'm going to take this with me, and whatever I do, I don't want to lose sight of it?
Yeah. Man, that's a really good question, Rodney.
And there's probably a lot of things, but...
You wish I was that thoughtful. I'm like, let's go concerts. Let's go sporting events. Yeah. I want to go to Europe. So
yes. Oh gosh, please.
Okay, what have I taken away? That's a beautiful story. I had a similar experience because I live on a main road here. And during March and April, there was no real place for me to walk or run outside around where I live. And so I crossed the main road because there was no one driving. And across the road, I found this like beautiful neighborhood that leads to a park and all this stuff I didn't even know was there. And then June comes around and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to play Frogger for the rest of my life because there are cars. I'd forgotten that the reason I could cross was there were no cars. And so in a very simple way, I found a neighborhood I didn't know existed. And I found a path that I really like being on. But it required me to cross a street I didn't know I could cross. And now it requires me to cross a street with some caution. And so when I think about that in my actual like emotional, spiritual life, and what I'll take from it is there are things like my ability to be alone that I discovered.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know me, I would love to get married, have a family. I really, that is a lifelong hope of mine. I feel like more than ever, I am experiencing, though I've had to play Frogger to get to this side, I feel like I'm experiencing some of the best parts of having a life where I can do whatever I want, though married people can do whatever they want to. There's just a difference when no one is sharing my money or my house or my calendar.
Yeah.
I have freedom that I will not have when I get married. And I've had seasons where I appreciated that. I think my Himalayas is going like, man, I don't know that I'd have done that year different. I don't know that I'd have wished, you know, in the back of That Sounds Fun, in the acknowledgments, I said, the last one is always to Jesus. And I said, I love the life we've built. And and a lot of my married friends have built lives with people for the last 20 years. You and Sarah built a life for 15 years. I've been doing the same. It's just been with Jesus. And not in a weird, bizarro way, but in like he's who I talk to the most, and he's who, you know?
Yeah.
And I think my Himalayas are, I have seen better than ever that this is something that God hasn't done independent of me, and I haven't done independent of God. We've built something together, and I love what we've built. And I think I didn't know that before 2020.
Yeah. Annie, keep creating things that make the world better.
Thanks,
Don't feel the
friend.
pressure to have to up yourself, but just whenever you feel like you've got something to share, just share it, because people relate so much to you. This book, I know, is helping so many people. And so if you are out there and haven't picked this up, please do, right? You want them to go buy it, correct?
Yes, if you'd like to buy it, I would love for you to buy it. That would be great.
Yeah.
I want you to read it. You can buy it, put it on your shelf, but I really want you to read it.
That's right. Where else can people find you?
Oh, you know me, Bronny. I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs everywhere. There it is right there. On Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places that you can find me there. And the podcast is also called That Sounds Fun. So pretty much if you look for That Sounds Fun or Annie F. Downs, you're going to run into me.
Well, do yourself a favor. If you don't know Annie, look her up in all the embarrassingly easy ways that you can find her. And
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking to our Canopy community and for sharing a little bit of insight in what this year has been like for you and giving us some hope.
Well,
Appreciate
this
it.
community has been very good to me, and you've been very good to me for a real long time. So I'm thankful for your friendship and for this day. This was really fun. This is exactly what I wanted to do today.
Yeah. All right, Annie, we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
See ya.
friend.